This is the Book Legion Podcast, where we review thought-provoking books to give our Legionnaires the knowledge they need to dominate the next level of their life.
Everybody, thanks so much for joining me this week on the Book Legion. This is your host, Tyser Evans, and this week I'm going to be reviewing Wes Watson's book, Non-Negotiable. So if you're new to the Book Legion, just want to say my name is Tyser Evans. I'm the host. I'm going to be introducing a new host, Kevin Diaz. He's a good friend of mine who reads just about as many books as I do. With my life being as busy as it is, I've been averaging about a book every 2 weeks, and I want to stay consistent with delivering a book a week to everybody. And so I asked Kevin to help me out. So you're going to hear a new voice on the podcast, but same type of content. We're going to go in and out as far as what the book is, who the author is, three favorite takeaways, if the book is recommended, and where to find it. Just kind of want to give you a heads up. But let's dive into Wes Watson's book, Non-Negotiable. So those of you who are not familiar with Wes Watson, he came on the scene, I want to say, he's been on the scene for about 5 years, but I'd say really the last 12 months has blown up. I listened to him for about 2.5 years. He was on Bedros Koulian's podcast, The Empire, so about 2.5 years ago. And his message just resonated with me, so I immediately went and found him online and started watching his YouTube videos and following his content on Instagram. He posts on Instagram every day. He's a machine with him posting content and his consistency. But Wes's story starts a long time ago. So he's originally from Oceanside, California, which I happen to have lived at because I went to school at Cal State San Marcos in North County, San Diego. So I ended up living in Oceanside, so very familiar with that area. Wes's story is that came from a blue-collar family. Parents kind of always struggled for money. He got into dealing drugs when he was in high school. Got into selling weed, and it was really for him. He talks a lot about a way to find his identity with being the cool guy. He was always kind of that fat, chubby kid that was picked on, although he was a bigger dude. And so this was a different way for him to have fulfillment, was by selling drugs and having the money and having the cars right at a very young age. So he got into that type of lifestyle and eventually caught up with them. He's very transparent. As he kind of grew his empire in San Diego, more and more stuff started happening to him. So eventually, he basically got ratted out by one of the guys that was, quote unquote, kind of on his team, a guy that he'd worked with that he brought up through the system and got that guy wealthy. The prosecutor went after him more maliciously than they should have as far as how much time he was going to be spending in prison. He ended up doing 10 years in the California State Penitentiary system. And through that experience, he learned a lot. And what he did was the exact opposite of what so many people do given that type of sentence. Most people, when they go to jail, unfortunately, we call it the correctional system, but really what happens is it teaches them to be better criminals, or they develop a drinking or drug problem. Coke, heroin, those types of things, meth are all super rampant in the penal system. So Wes did not do that. He doubled down on his fitness. He said all vices got to go. And that's just how he lives his life inside of the penitentiary with extreme discipline. And I think one of the reasons he really did that fundamentally to begin with was to start to gain his confidence. You're in there with rapists, murderers, people that will cut you, slice you for really no reason at all. I mean, a lot of times just for the color of your skin. It's very segregated by race in prison systems. Wes is white, so, he really only hung out with white people because it's just really how it goes. It's the same thing if you're black or you're Mexican or you're Asian. That's just really how the penal system goes. And he talks about that openly in the book that, hey, I'm not a racist person. That's just the way you have to fall in line. So because, when you're in there, at any moment you can be killed, he wanted to be extreme disciplined. There's no point in having vices when you could step out of your block at any time and get shanked, right? So he wanted to construct the body that he had always envisioned himself having. And then he kind of took it further. He wanted to build the man that he always saw himself becoming. And so he started building that man inside of the penitentiary. He got out about 4 years ago, and since getting out of the prison, he took all of the inner work, he's a big fan of like Stoicism, Hero's Journey, Joseph Campbell, Jordan Peterson type work, Marcus Aurelius, and those were his mentors, those books and those people he would read inside of the penitentiary. Then he went inside and did the work, discovered why he was feeling his pain, his insecurities, and pushed through them through discipline and through habitual habits. So now that he got out, He's completely, obviously his life was changed in prison for the better, and now he's helping people adopt these same principles that he learned in prison on the outside. And so I said he got out and he got right on YouTube, became really a mindset coach in my mind first. I think he's more of a mindset coach than he is a fitness coach, but he's built a fitness empire. I've actually am a part of his Watson Fit program. This is not a plug for that whatsoever, but I will post a link in the show notes. So for me personally, I've been on the program for about 3 weeks and I've lost 20 pounds, which has just been incredible. So he dials in your macros, your nutrition plan, and you get to be on weekly calls with him. And it's relatively inexpensive for the amount of value you get from this man and what he's been through to be able to learn and be mentored by him. So huge fan of everything that he's doing, and that's why his book's been out. I wanted to cover his book because it's impacted my life in an extremely positive way. And so what I want to cover is kind of 3 of big takeaways in Wes's book, and maybe I'll just cover 3 chapters. There's 9 chapters in the book. It's about 140 pages, so quick read. But I would say, I got done reading it, and again, this has no to do with affiliation because I'm part of his crew, his training platform, his fitness team. That it was one of the best books I've ever written because it was just raw. There was no ghostwriter. It was edited and it's well written, but if you don't like the word motherfucker, don't read it or don't listen to Wes. But it's completely raw with his language, and that it's him on the pages. That's not somebody that wrote that. That's him basically writing the book and telling someone maybe clean up a little grammar, but don't fucking change anything. And they didn't. And so I had a greater appreciation for the style and the way the book was written. So let's jump into my 3 favorite takeaways. Oh, and I did want to say that yes, he has built his training program and his mindset program. Not only has he built it, he's been out of prison for 4 years. When he got released from prison, he was given $200. Now he's built an 8-figure company in 4 years. So that's really cool. And you'll see if you go follow him on Instagram, he's got 2 Lambos, he's got 2 Rolls Royces, lives in a nice big penthouse downtown San Diego. He's got a beautiful wife and a beautiful child, and is living. He's living what he says in the book. He's living what he says in the videos, and it's very evident if you follow him online. So big kudos to him. So let's jump into the book. So the first chapter I want to start with is chapter 1, Guidance of Regret. And this is something that was actually completely profound for me as a message. So the guidance of regret. And he is a man that lives his life in sobriety. And so this is the best type of analogy you can give when talking about the guidance of regret. So, we all do things in our life where we make mistakes. We either say something we don't mean to another person, or, people have things where they have infidelity with their spouse, or they, go out and they get shit-canned and they wake up the next morning hungover, they don't remember what happened. There's lots of things that we can do with regret. We say something to a coworker because we're in a bad mood that we didn't really mean, and we think about it. And so what Wes talks about is that when you have those moments of regret, that's really your conscience telling you not to do that again. Regret is a moral compass for what you should be doing in life. To build the person who you've always envisioned, to build your dream life, regret is the best tool to point you in the right direction. If you go out and you go party and you realize that, man, I just screwed up my diet, I don't have no energy to work out, I don't know what I did last night, I don't know where my wallet is, God knows where my car is, I'm just happy to be alive and I didn't hurt anybody. If you're having those moments in life and you're regretting the decisions you made the night before, then what he says is recognize, hey, shit happens, it happened, here we are, and then don't do it again, right? That's your North Star telling you that's not serving your higher purpose. Anytime that you have a feeling of regret, you're not in alignment with who you want to be. And Wes very much talks about congruency and an alignment with your energy. And so he says you have to listen to your heart. You have to listen to what your conscience is telling you. And one of the best tools as far as getting feedback from yourself is when you regret something, that's immediately your higher self, your energy, your inner calling saying, hey, that's not in congruency with who we want to be as a person. So he talks a lot about this as using regret as guidance. So chapter 4 is fucking abide. And so there's kind of 3 chapters, sub-chapters to it. Self-inflicted adversary, Are you fake hard and abiding by congruency? So some of the things we just talked about. And one of the things that I really love that he kind of calls out men for is being this fake hard. You know, you see it a lot in society. And I was raised by a man who is special forces in the Army, loves to box, and definitely was not scared of fighting. And so that's just the way I was raised. Now I see myself as more of a pacifist. You know, I'd always protect my family if I had to, but I don't think the violence is the answer. And Wes doesn't advocate for that at all. But what he does is there's people out there that portray themselves in a certain manner. They like to put on this machismo or this macho man type attitude where, oh, I can fuck you up, or, you know, I'm not scared of you. And we see this a lot, you know, especially men just really trying to always be the alpha dogs. And he talks about, like, a lot of those guys, that's just fake hard. You know, he said he has a saying, and this is one of the things that he said that really struck me to the core when he was on the Brad Lee podcast, was that you're not hard, you're hurt. And so he talks a lot about you pretending to be hard, you pretending to be this violent, sadistic person that doesn't care about, you know, other people, you don't care about hurting yourself, you don't care about hurting other people. That, no, that's you just projecting your insecurities because you're really hurt. And how many of us like to act like and fake like something that we're not? And so he takes this a step further than just violence. He talks about, like, people like to portray that, you know, especially online, that you lead a certain type of lifestyle. And I think that your body and your temple is a great example. You know, people will say, show themselves in the gym, you know, or post a picture of their meals. But then you notice they are 20 pounds overweight, maybe like I was, right? Or they're 30 pounds overweight. Or they're saying they're doing something that they're not. So they're not in congruency. They're not in alignment with what they're portraying to everybody else and what they want people to see about themselves. And when you're not in congruency and you're not in alignment, but you're trying to fake this type of lifestyle, this certain type of persona, people know it's fucking fake. You know, people can see right through it. As much as you don't think that they can, they can. It's kind of like having a fat personal trainer. Like, I get you might know a lot about personal training, you might know about nutrition, right? But you're not living it, right? You're fake hard. And that's what he says, you know, talks about self-inflicted adversity. So if you're someone who has got a comfortable life, then you need to make your life harder. Goggins talks about this, you know, you have to invite suck into your life. And if you don't have any, you have to go seek it out. You know, we thrive as human beings off of pressure, off of adversity, off of challenges. That's what really inspires us. Like, you don't read books. People don't read books about people who've just had an easy life. Like, you know what I mean? You're not reading a book. I'm not reading a book about somebody who was a trust fund kid and is never had any type of adversity in their life, because it's not interesting, right? It's not fulfilling. Those aren't the things that we read about. When you're out with people, you know, at a dinner, you're not recalling all the times where you're like, you know, life last month was really amazing and it was super easy and I just sat around and watched Netflix and it was a lot of fun. No, you're talking about the times where you built a business, or you got through a relationship, or you got through a heartbreak, or you went on an extraordinary adventure traveling through Europe and maybe stayed in a creepy hostel, right? Those are the things that we account. So we have to continue to add challenges to our life to have adversity, so we can become the person and live in congruency and alignment with who we say we are, or at least who we're trying to project to the world we are. So he says, stop being this fake hard. Like, just get in congruency and get in alignment with who you really are and be that person. It's so much easier. And then the last chapter, to me, because it's a saying that I've had for several years, on all my other podcasts, I even have wristbands made. Chapter 9 is no days off. And so Wes is someone that works out 7 days a week. Although I was not dialed in, I'm someone that always usually works out 7 days a week as well, because of the discipline, right? Because the self-imposed discipline, your life is formed by your habitual habits. And so the more that you stay consistent every single day with your habitual habits, the better your life will be. I mean, the last book that I had covered at the beginning of the month was The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And what Jeff talks about is really, the whole premise of that book is defining what are your good and bad habits, and then staying consistent with your good ones over the duration of time. And with that, there's really no way that you can't be successful or build your dream life. And Wes just really says the same thing, you know, personify your positivity, be positive with everything that you do, right? Have a matter of conduct. And what he talks about, a matter of conduct, is how you conduct yourself. Again, this kind of goes to the fake hard, understanding, you know, what things you've regretted. And conduct yourself in a manner that's positive and someone that you aspire to be. He talks a lot about, what you admire, you attract or you acquire. What you admire, you acquire, right? And so when you have a vision of who you are building in your mind, and you're going to continue and you have positive self-talk, you're going to acquire those things that you're admiring through having daily discipline of good habitual habits and having a conduct where you're continually building that man or woman that you've always envisioned in your mind. And so those 3 chapters to me were super powerful, some of my favorites. But to be honest with you, if you look at the book, those of you on YouTube watching this, you can kind of see. I highlighted the crap out of the book because there was takeaways throughout the entire book that were just, they were amazing. And we just turn to one page here. This is how we change everything, by always pointing the finger at ourselves so we are in control, opposed to living in that victim mindset. Boom. That's just a nugget right there. I just flipped to a random page. So definitely check out the book. The book, I think, was $15. I'll post a link in Amazon. And if you're interested in taking your fitness to the next level, I said I'll post a link to Wes's program, but he's no joke. There is no substitute. The guy wakes up every day at 2:45. He's in the gym by 4. He's at work by 6, and he lives that 7 days a week. You see it every day. I've been on his coaching calls. He's the real deal. If you want to have a radical change in the way that you treat your body, get rid of the poison, get rid of the vices, and poison not being alcohol or drugs or smoking or whatever it is, let it all go. He talks a lot about living life in sobriety. Because it's life's meant not to be dulled, right? If you're constantly changing and altering your state of reality, it's because you're trying to escape something. And so instead of escaping, he's all about taking it head on, feeling that pain, working through the pain, and creating a dream life. So again, everything will be linked right below in the show notes for either the podcast or if you're watching this on YouTube. Really appreciate you guys listening. Again, Kevin may be filling in next week for me. We're probably going to be altering so that way we can put out as much content as possible. And we have some different takes and read some different types of material. So I'm excited about Kevin coming on board with the Book Legion. Thank you guys so much. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the podcast. I would really appreciate it. Make sure you turn on your notifications so you get the updates weekly. And if you haven't checked out my other business podcast where it's all about entrepreneurial, bring on sales, people, experts, leadership experts, people in digital marketing, you name it, they come on. Grind, Sell, Elevate is my other podcast. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk to you guys soon.